Greetings. This is Reverend Patricia Sunday Ministries. We are continuing with our study in the Word through the Bible from Genesis to Revelation. Last time we left off, I believe, at chapter 19, verse 26, where we read that again. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. And I explained to you that that is a Jewish idiom. Does not mean she turned into a pillar of salt. It means that she became petrified with fear and died of fear. Now, if you'll notice in Revelation, when we get there, you're going to find that that is also said just like that again. Not pillar of salt, but people dying from fear of the things that are coming upon the world. So as she looked back, she died in fear of what was coming on the world to her in her day. And the same thing can happen in our day. History repeats itself. And we're seeing, we're not even through to Genesis 20 yet, and we've already seen several pictures of the rapture and several examples of in Noah and Lot's day that we're to look at in our day. So let's begin with verse 27. And Abraham rose up early in the morning and went to the place where he had stood before the Lord. So he's gone backwards, back to where he was, and looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and toward all the region of the plain, and beheld, lo, the smoke of the country went up like the smoke of a furnace. So standing from afar, seeing it burning. That's also a picture in the book of Revelation of in 1 hour you will see the smoke of her burning. So as we're going along, we're just little glimpses, little pictures of everything in this Bible has a glimpse into Revelation, because Revelation is an overview and a small time view for the end of time. In other words, the Revelation seals from when Jesus died, seals the end, sealed here, sealed there, a seal here, a seal there, and we are now living under the opened seventh seal. So everything in the book of Revelation is proceeding pretty quickly. Verse 29, it came to pass when God destroyed the cities of the plain that God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the devastated region, and he overthrew the cities wherein Lot dwelt. So nothing is going to happen in the way of nuclear war or Armageddon before we're gone. We're going to be out here, and the day we leave, it falls. In fact, I believe several days before we leave, we will have notice that we are leaving 3.5 days before the rapture. And you can find that in Revelation 11, 1 through 14, where it talks about the two witnesses. Again, two witnesses are not the two men. I'll show you how that works when we get there. But we are the witnesses. The Jews are the olive trees, the Christians are the candlesticks, and they are both his people, the saved Jews and the Christian saved Gentiles. And it says that when people led in the streets of Jerusalem, in 3.5 days, the Lord puts skin on them and raises them up alive from fear that they see these people coming back alive. And if there will be a resurrection, there will be a rapture. So we know without a doubt that something happened in Israel. That's a sign. We're to watch for the people dead in the street, because that's our warning sign that we have 3.5 days till we're going. Remember, Jerusalem's 8-hour difference from us on this side of the world. Now, 29, it came to pass, I destroyed the cities of plain, that God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the devastated region when he overthrew the cities wherein Lot dwelt. And Lot went up out out of Zoar and dwelt in the mountain. So now we see he asked the Lord, oh, please let me just live in the little small town of Zoar. And he didn't listen to the Lord. But now, when he sees the smoke going up, he decides maybe I better get on up to that mountain. It's getting a little short here and I might get blown away. So again, that's a picture of you better obey the Lord the first time so you don't have to run at the last minute to get away from something. Anyway, he went up to the mountain and his 2 daughters were with him, for he was afraid to live in Zoar. And he dwelt in a cave, both he and his 2 daughters. All right, here's the cave. Let's underline cave. So he went and he hid himself in a cave in a mountain. In the end of time, it talks about they're going to go hide in dens and caves and mountains to get away, run to the mountains, run for the hills to get away from what they see coming. And the firstborn said to the younger, behold, our father is old, and there is not a man in the land to take us for wives after the manner of all the earth. Let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, so that we may raise up offspring from our father. Now, I want you to underline that if you want to. I did. And write incest above verse 32. So this is the first case of incest in the Bible. And this is the first case that we see of. We're not so sure that it hasn't happened before. I'm sure it happened, probably sure that it happened between the evil people way back, but, before Abraham. But this is the first case of anybody in the righteous church, this having happened to them. Because God accounted Lot and his daughters righteous. But look what they're doing. They're taking things into their own hands instead of letting God do this, coming down from the cave later, meeting men and getting married and having their children. They decided to take it in their own hands. So this is a case that happens when we try to do things ourselves sometimes. And they made their father drink wine that night. And the firstborn went in and lay with her father. He did not know when she lay down or when she arose. That's really strange. And it came to pass on the next day, the firstborn said to the younger, behold, I lay last night with my father. Let us make him drink again tonight. Then you go in and lie with him, that he may raise offspring, that we may raise offspring from our father. Now, somehow to me, logically, I'm going to have to stop and think, I don't care how drunk you are, you're going to know something's going on. And unless he was just passed out dead drunk, and then I don't think he would have been able to father children. So I'm thinking not only were they committing incest, but he was slightly allowing them, making an excuse that he was drunk. After all, didn't he try to give them to the men of Sodom? So they weren't something that he treasured or he protected. So he had something within his heart that wasn't right. Verse 35, so they made their father drink wine that night also, and the younger went in and lay with him, and he did not know when she lay down nor when she arose. Thus both of the daughters of Lot were with child by my father. And the firstborn bore a son and called his name Moab. Okay? We know that Moab became an evil city. So let's underline Moab. He is the father of the Moabites to this day. And the younger also bore a son and called his name Barami. He is the father of the Ammonites to this day. So both the Moabites and the Amorites were born out of incest, meaning they were bastard children and they were from an evil act and were not of God. So now we're going to go to chapter 20. And Abraham journeyed from thence toward the south country and settled between Rachem and Gedar, and Abraham sojourned in Gedar. And Abraham said of Sarah, his wife, she is my sister. Look, wait, Abraham said, he's doing it again. Not only didn't he learn his lesson the first time, but he's doing it again, not too long hence. So, and Abraham said of Sarah, his wife, she is my sister. And Abimelech, king of Gedar, sent and took Sarah. So here's the second instance of Sarah being taken into a king's house. And God came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said to him, behold, you will die on account of the woman that you have taken, for she is another man's wife. But Abimelech had not touched her. I'm going to star that right there, because this king had not touched Sarah, but it doesn't say that back the first time. She had actually become that man's wife, even though she was Abraham's wife. Now, behold, he said, she is my sister. Let's underline, she is my sister again. So, and let's make a notation that this is the second time Abraham has done this and called her his sister instead of saying she was his wife. And she herself also said, he is my brother. In the innocence of my heart and purity of my hands have I done this. And God said to him in a dream, yea, I know that you have done this in the innocence of your heart, for I also restrained you from sinning against me. Therefore, I did not permit you to touch her. So this king, the Lord had restrained him. It doesn't say that the first time. Now, therefore, restore the man's wife, for he is a prophet. So this, and I want you to circle, for he is a prophet, because this is, and write out this Bible, this is the first time that Abraham is called a prophet. And he shall pray for you, and you shall live. But if you do not restore her, then know that you will surely die, you and all your family. Therefore Abimelech rose early in the morning and called all of his servants and told them all these words, and the men were exceedingly afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, what have I done to you? And what crime have I committed against you, that you brought this on me and my kingdom, such a great sin? You have done to me things that ought not to be done. So he was not exactly, Abraham was a prophet, and Abraham was God's man, but he wasn't exactly living according to what we or God would really have us live righteously. A couple of instances, I would say he's a liar, and liars won't inherit the kingdom of heaven. But as he goes on, and in this dispensation, he makes him the leader of the great nation. We know that sin, prophets sin, pastors sin, but if they're in the right frame of mind and right with God, they do repent, and he does restore. Verse 8, therefore Abimelech rose early, and he told his servants to go get them. Then Abimelech called Abraham and said, what have you done to me? And then he said, that shouldn't be done. And then we're in verse 10, and Abimelech said to Abraham, what induced you to do this thing? What was the reason? And Abraham said, because I thought perhaps there is no fear of God in this country, and they will slay me for my wife's sake. And yet truly she is my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother. And she became my wife. So she was his half-sister, And it came to pass, when God brought me forth out of my father's house, I said to her, This is the favor which you shall do to me at every place where we go. Say of me, he's my brother. So not only did he do it the first time, the second time, he wants her to continue in this line of sin, this lie. And Abimelech took sheep and oxen and male and female servants and gave them to Abraham and restored to him Sarah his wife. Another of the slavery part of the Bible, where he didn't buy these slaves or these servants. They were called servants then, not slaves. But these servants had to be removed from their own families and so forth to leave to go with them. They just separated them. Then Abimelech said to Abraham, Behold, my land is before you. Dwell wherever you please. And to Sarah he said, Behold, I have given you 1,000 pieces of silver to your brother. Behold, it is given for you, because you have been humbled in the eyes of my people. So he paid her for everybody finding out how they were living. He actually paid her for the trouble that had been caused. So Abraham prayed to God. God healed Abimelech and his wife and his maidservants, and they bore children. For the Lord had fast closed up the wombs of all the women in the household of Abimelech because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. First, we're going into chapter 21. And the Lord remembered Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did to Sarah as he had spoken. For Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in her old age. Now you can understand that this chapter 21 is one of those other chapters in, this is going backwards. We're now going to read what happened before chapter 19 and 20. Pretty much. We're going back to, we're going back to chapter 17, I think. Yeah. 17, 18, in 18, where Sarah was laughing. Is that where it was? Sarah denied. Okay. Yeah. Chapter 18, Sarah denied that she was going to be pregnant. Well, we've gone through some history here where they moved from place to place and called her his sister instead of his wife. But now in chapter 21, we're going backwards. We're going to go back to where she found out she was pregnant, and we're going to start from there again. And the Lord remembered Sarah as he had said, and the Lord said to Sarah as he had spoken. For Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age at the set time. Let's put set time. There's always a set time for God to do something. Everything is in order and a set time. Even the coming of the Lord. He knows when the set time for all this to happen is going to be. And Abraham called the name of his son that was born to him, whom Sarah bore to him, Isaac. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 days old, as God had commanded him. Remember, his first son he circumcised when he was 13 years old, Ishmael. And that has a little revelation in it too, because 13 is an occult number. It's a sign of something evil. That Ishmael was the occult 13 sign, meaning he was the copycat. He was not the real. He was not the real one that was supposed to have received the blessing, the promise. So Isaac was circumcised at 8 days old, and Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born. And Sarah said, God has made me to rejoice today exceedingly. Everyone who hears the news will rejoice with me. And she said, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would have son to children? For I have borne him a son in his old age. Boy, 100 years, you were just old at 100 years old then. Now we're old at my age or before. And she said, who would have said to Abraham, Sarah would have sucked to children, for I have borne him a son in his old age. And the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast on the day that Isaac was weaned. So the feast, there's a feast day associated with the weaning of Isaac. And Sarah. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar. Okay, now she's looking over son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, mocking. Now remember, we've already gone through him sending Hagar away. So we're really back to a few chapters. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, mocking. This made her very angry that her stepson, Isaac, Ishmael, her stepson, Ishmael, was mocking her having a baby. Therefore, she said to Abraham, expel the maidservant and her son, for the son of this maidservant shall not be heir with my son Isaac. I want you to underline, shall not be heir with my son Isaac, because this is what we're going through right now in the Middle East, the war between the Israelites and the Isaacs. That's exactly what the whole religious war is about now in the Middle East. Along with the land that was blessed and rich in oil and gold and other things, precious metals. And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son, because he really loved Ishmael. And the Muslim Islamic race are legitimate heirs, legitimate family line from Abraham. They're just not the son of the promise, and they've always hated that. And Satan has changed their thinking and their scriptures in order to make what the Hebrews believed a lie, and it's not true. We have it right here in the ancient writings of exactly how it transpired, and the Jews know it because we're reading the first 5 books are called the Torah, which is their Bible, and they know all this, but the Ishmaelites don't believe it, and their prophet wrote an entirely new book, which has nothing to do with the Bible. Although I've listened to some of their teachings, and they're so much more moral than as far as sexual morality and that type of thing than most Christians are, unfortunately. Verse 14. And Abraham rose up early. Wait, let's go back to 11. And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son. And God said to Abraham, let it not be grievous in your sight because of the boy and because of your maidservant. Whatever Sarah tells you, hearken to her voice, for your descendants shall come through Isaac. So he's telling us right here, the anointed line is coming through Isaac, not Ishmael. So they have to go, be put away now as the time has come. Can you imagine having to say goodbye to your son and the one who bore him? Obviously, they were friends. They had something together, even though Abraham probably never had any relations with her ever again. But she was the mother of his child. Verse 13, and also of the son of the maidservant will I make a great nation, because he is your offspring. And Abraham rose up early in the morning and took bread and a skin containing water and gave them to Hagar, putting them on her shoulder and the boy, and sent her away. And she departed and lost her way in the wilderness of Beersheba. We're going to stop there at before verse 15, but I want you to underline wilderness or circle it, because this is a picture of the Islamic nation being sent away from the land of what is now Israel and going into the wilderness, which is over near Beersheba. So it was close by, but it was further land. It wasn't the promised land that Isaac was to get. But now they're trying to get that back. They've lived on that land for a long, long time. And they believe it's their land, but it wasn't, because Israel was displaced. So we're going to stop there, and we'll take up with chapter 21, verse 15 next time. I hope you're enjoying reading along in the Word. It seems to be that sometimes when you're reading with somebody, and you get a little more out of it than if you're just trying to sit there and read it and you don't understand it, and it's kind of dry sometimes. So I hope you're enjoying it, and I'd like to hear from you. Please make comments, and shalom. Till next time.